Beneath the ground of the world's financial capitals, beneath pavements worn smooth by millions of hurried footsteps, gold still lies in silence, like an ancient memory buried under modern life. Global gold reserves are not merely figures printed in central bank reports. They are the accumulated residue of fear and ambition, of war and empire, of trust earned and trust betrayed, layered across centuries. Paper money can be created overnight, summoned by keystrokes and signatures. Gold cannot. It remains a mute witness, offering no arguments, no promises, yet always present when the world's order begins to shake. Gold entered monetary history as a promise, but not a promise made by governments. It was a promise made by nature itself. Finite, stubbornly difficult to extract, immune to political decree. When nations began to accumulate gold, they were not merely stockpiling metal, they were stockpiling belief. The belief that, on the darkest day, something would still exist that everyone, everywhere, would recognize as real. That is why gold reserves have never been purely an economic matter. They are, and always have been, a question of power. At the center of this story stands the Bank of England. Beneath London's crowded streets rest more than 5,000 tons of gold. Yet the great paradox of this system is simple and unsettling. Britain owns only a small fraction of what lies in its vaults. The rest belongs to foreign central banks and international institutions. London is not the nation with the largest gold reserves, but it is the place where the most gold sleeps. This alone reveals a fundamental truth of the modern world. Power no longer rests solely in ownership. It rests in custody, in administration, and in the ability to define the rules by which others must play. Britain's gold story is not a clean one. It was built through piracy and plunder, through colonial extraction, through state-sanctioned trading empires like the East India Company, and through the financial dominance that followed the pound's link to gold. When the gold standard was alive, London became the heart of the global monetary system. Gold flowed in, not only because Britain was strong, but because the world needed a place that felt trustworthy enough to anchor global exchange. Over time, Britain's gold vaults ceased to be merely national storage. They became global infrastructure. If Britain represents the power of trust, the United States represents the power of scale. The U.S. holds the largest official gold reserves in the world, more than 8,000 tons, stored primarily at Fort Knox and Federal Reserve vaults. This gold is a direct legacy of World War II and the Bretton Woods system, when the U.S. dollar became the world's reserve currency, explicitly backed by gold. Although the gold standard ended in 1971, America's gold has never left its vaults. It no longer guarantees convertibility, but it still underwrites a story. That behind the dollar stands a state powerful enough to honor its commitments. Europe tells a different gold story, one shaped by trauma and memory. Germany is the clearest example. After World War II, much of its gold was stored abroad, particularly in the United States, Britain, and France. This reflected Europe's historical fear of losing control during catastrophe. When Germany began repatriating its gold in 2013, the decision was not merely financial, it was political. In an unstable world, gold must be within reach. France and Italy, too, maintained large reserves, treating gold as a pillar of independence from the Anglo-Saxon financial system. Further east, Russia and China approach gold with colder, more strategic logic. Russia steadily accumulated gold throughout the 2010s, especially after facing financial sanctions. When dollar-denominated assets can be frozen, gold becomes an asset that requires no permission. China, while less transparent about its holdings, has also quietly increased reserves as part of a long-term strategy to reduce reliance on the US dollar. For Beijing, gold is not a daily trading instrument. It is a foundation for a future financial order that may not revolve around Western currencies. Emerging economies view gold with a mixture of caution and longing. India's relationship with gold is unique, rooted not only in state policy, but in household tradition. The Reserve Bank of India's gold holdings formalize a cultural truth. gold does not betray. Oil-rich Middle Eastern states also maintain gold reserves as a counterweight to Western financial assets, a hedge against shifting geopolitical winds. The irony is striking. While nations hoard gold as insurance, the global financial system functions on the assumption that gold will never actually be needed. Most gold transactions in London or New York involve no physical movement at all, only changes in ownership records on screens. The bars remain still, yet their titles may change hands dozens of times a day. This is the defining paradox of our era. Physical gold is the foundation, but real power resides in the legal, institutional, and technological networks surrounding it. And then the unavoidable question arises. In a true global crisis, who would gold really belong to? History offers a blunt answer. Gold belongs to where it physically lies. Precedents, from frozen assets during wars to blocked reserves in political disputes, remind us that gold reserves are not merely legal abstractions. They are anchored in geography and enforced by power. This reality has driven many countries in recent years to rethink where and how they store their gold. Ultimately, global gold reserves reflect something deeply human. No matter how advanced technology becomes, no matter how abstract money grows, we still seek something heavy, cold, and impossible to print as a foundation for belief. Gold cannot solve every problem, but it endures as a reminder that all systems are finite, and every promise needs something solid beneath it. And you, where do you think true financial power really lies?